Welcome to the first Vegas Food Expo. Thanks for showing up. Small but intimate crowd here. So my name's Paul Saginaw, and I'm one of the founding partners, along with Ari Weinsweig, of Zingerman's Community of Businesses in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Have any of you ever been to Zingerman's? Have you ever heard of Zingerman's? Oh, okay. So a couple weeks ago, we celebrated our 35th anniversary. We opened back in March of 1982, my partner Ari and I, and 2 employees. We did a little under $100 our first day, and today we have, there's 21 partners across 10 businesses with about 740 employees. We do about $66 million in sales now we'll do this year, and that's all within Ann Arbor. We're very local, and so I was going to kind of tell you a bit of our history, and I was going to talk to you about the things that I believe that help drive our success. How you doing? So anyway, I met my partner back in the mid '70s in Ann Arbor. We were working in a restaurant, and I grew up in Detroit, and my partner Ari grew up in Chicago. And when we grew up, every neighborhood had a delicatessen, and you thought it was the best. And we were stuck in Ann Arbor, and it was a wasteland for anything that resembled a real corned beef sandwich. And so we thought that Ann Arbor could use one, and so we got together and took over a small little building that had been a corner grocery store. And originally, what we wanted.
Having trouble with the monitor.
Anyway, what we wanted to do, we had a vision for. We wanted to have a sandwich that was so big, it would take 2 hands to pick it up. And when you finally got it up to your mouth and bit into it, the Russian dressing would roll down your arms. And this was really very, very clear in our heads before we ever made our first sandwich. And from there, we took off. And that's really what I want to talk to you about three key things, which would be vision and guiding principles and open book management is what I'd like to talk to you about today. But first, I'd like to give you a little quiz. Okay, so I'd like to ask you to close your eyes and with an outstretched arm, point in the direction that you think is north. Okay, you know, hold. Can you? Okay. Okay, so if you open your eyes, you guys are pointing in all the directions, right? So we got a problem because we're down here in Las Vegas, and we got to get up to Seattle by nightfall. So, you know, we could appoint a committee, have them come back with a proposal. We could take a vote, but lucky for you, the iPhone has a compass, and the compass says magnetic north is in that direction. So those of you that were pointing in a different direction, do you want to argue with that? Anybody? No, you're not going to, right? Because that's a natural law, and we use natural laws to guide us, and if we don't pay attention to them, we get in really big trouble. The point I'm trying to make is that I believe in business there's also some natural laws. I think that if you want to be successful over a long period of time, that your customers have to realize and perceive value in your product or service. If you want employees to give really, really great service to your customers, then you, as leaders in your organization, have to give really, really good service to your staff. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen. And a really, really big one, important one for me is that you have to have a vision of a preferred future for your organization. You have to be able to clearly define what success looks like. Otherwise, you never know if you're successful or not. And in our organization, we call this a vision. And a vision is it's a written narrative that describes what success looks like at some point in time. So if everything goes the way you want it to go, and things work out just right, really, what exactly does that look like? And when my partner Ari and I first opened, we had a vision of what we wanted that business to be. That we were going to gather the finest artisanal made foods from around the world, and we were going to have it in this little store, and then smashed down in the middle of it, we were going to have this busy, bustling sandwich shop serving those big sandwiches. And we also said that we wanted to be unique. And for us, by definition, that meant there was only going to be one of us. And that if we were ever going to grow or expand, we were never going to do that by replication. Now, that's certainly a good business model. It's well proven, but it wasn't what we wanted. We had never seen an operation that was really, really good and then grew by replication and actually got better and more exciting. It always tended to seem to lose something to us. Have any of you ever been to the original Starbucks at Pike Market? You know, for me, when I still go in there, there's a sense of history. There's an energy level that's palpable. It's exciting. Have you ever been to the Starbucks on a turnpike or interstate? Is it exciting? So that's really what we wanted to avoid. So we said that we were going to be unique. And we also said that we wanted an organization where decisions were not going to be made based on who had the most authority, but rather who had a good idea, who had a solution to an issue we were dealing with, who had information and data that was relevant to the problems at hand. We wanted to push decision-making down as deeply and widely into the organization and invite everybody to come in and help make the decisions that were going to run the business. We wanted everybody to understand that they were each personally responsible for the success of the business. We didn't know how to do that, and it took us a long time to learn that, and I'm going to talk about that too, but that's really what we wanted. And we also said that we were going to gather this food and we were going to prepare this food and we were going to deliver it to people with an extremely high level of customer service. You know, we were opening at a time that in our town was a food wasteland. And if you had gone to the fabled business school at the University of Michigan and you asked them to come in and do a feasibility study for you, a market analysis for you, and you'd say, well, what's the feasibility for fresh goat cheese and aged balsamic vinegar and extra virgin olive oil, they would say, don't bother to open. Nobody even knows what it was. But we believe that we could create these markets. And so, but we were going to ask people to come in and they were going to try products that were going to cost a lot more than they were used to. They were used to paying $1.99 for a quart of Heinz white distilled vinegar. And now we were going to sell them a little bottle of aged balsamic vinegar that was going to be greatly more expensive than what you're used to. And so we thought what we could do is that we were going to treat people like royalty. We were going to wow them and service the hell out of them and have them understand that they were absolutely the most important part of our day, and that the only reason that we got up in the morning and we came in and we opened the door and we turned the sign on and we put the drawer in the register was on the chance that they would grace us with their patronage. Because I don't know about the towns that you live in, but back in Ann Arbor, there is nobody that gets up in the morning and says, if I don't get a $16 sandwich, I will kill myself. Or if I don't get a $9 loaf of bread, life isn't worth living. It just wasn't going to happen. So we were going to bring them in because we were going to create this experience that was categorized by this extremely high level of service. And moreover, we were going to provide that experience to not just to our customers, but to our staff and to the larger community. And so we did. We opened up in March of 1982. in March of 1982, again with 2 employees, and we did a little under $100 our first day, and you know, and we hit it right. Food was just starting to become a bigger part of the public's consciousness. It was when you first would start to know the name of a celebrity chef. And we were in a town, a university town, where people traveled a lot and people from all over the world came to go to school there, and people were willing to try different kinds of foods. Financially, it was a difficult time because, well, anybody know what prime lending rate is today? They just raised it a little bit. But you can all go out and borrow money somewhere between 4 and 6%, okay? And if you're really high credit, you can still get it for a little under that. But in March of 1982, when we opened, prime lending rate was 18%. And I put up my house and we were able to borrow $20,000 at 20%. So it was really rolling the dice. But things are really good. People wanted to try all these foods. They were very excited. We were getting a lot of notice. We were getting a lot of press. We were winning awards. It was a very, very heady time. And things went along like that.
We're back.
Okay, go back. So we opened. That's what the inside of the deli looks like. And if you go to the next one, so we're talking about the original vision, and things went really, really well for the first 10 years. It was a heady time, but about 10 years into it, I started to notice things in the workplace that were troublesome to me. We now had a formal leadership team, and there was a lot of disagreement among the leadership. Where's our greatest opportunities, and how do we take advantage of them? Where are the threats coming from? How do we mitigate those threats? There was a lot of risk avoidance. It was like, hey, we're Zingermans, we're cool, let's not do anything crazy. And then also it seemed that the people that were in leadership were becoming bureaucratic. They started to believe that their authority was vested in their title. And I wanted an organization that remained more like a startup, where the staff willingly gave authority to the leaders because they viewed them as competent and consistent and fair and committed to their success and wanted to shake things up. And also, when you would come to work with us, everybody that would start, they'd spend 2 hours with either me or my partner Ari as an opening orientation. Until this, and up to today, although we have a very involved orientation program, and where you take many, many classes, you get a passport and it lists all the classes that you have to take to get through basic orientation. We try to get as many people certified within the organization to teach those classes. Still, the welcoming orientation is still taught by my partner Ari or myself. We feel it's very, very important that as long as we're able, that we welcome everybody into the organization, and we talk about who we are, where we came from, where we're going, what's important to us, and why they're important to us. And then at that class, you know, I'd look at you and I'd say, you can make this job anything you want it to be. And if you want to have a career with us, then I have a responsibility along with you to see that that happens. But it wasn't ringing true anymore. We were this small little building. We were busting out at the seams. We had a leadership team in place. We were all very young, so nobody was dying, and nobody was leaving. So if you were up and coming and you wanted to grow financially and you wanted to grow professionally, there was very little growth opportunity for you, and we were going to lose you. And we were going to lose you to our competition after we worked really, really hard teaching you how to compete with us. So these things were bothering me, and so one day I grabbed Ari, and can you go back? And outside in front of the little building there's a little bench, and I sat him down on the bench, and I said, look, we've been at this for 10 years. 10 years from now, what do we look like? He was, why are you bothering me? I got work to do. I said, well, this is our work. He goes, no, you know, June called in sick, the dishwasher's broken, and the lunch rush is going to start. I got real work to do. And I said, no, this is our real work. I understand that the pressures in all of our businesses are very, very real. You know, order the product, get it in, prepare the product, get it to the customer, ring up the customer. That's all very real, but somebody in the organization has to be taking the time to look down the road and say, this is where we're going. It's a debt that you owe to the people in your organization. Because when you have a staff that gets up and comes in and works really, really hard every day, that is a gift. That's the gift of followership. And in return, you owe them a debt. Part of that debt is to provide a workplace where they feel safe and secure and important so that they're willing to put out a good effort every day. Part of that effort is a legacy of guiding principles, saying this is going to be the reality within this workplace. This is how we're going to behave without exception. And a really, really big part of that debt is an attractive, achievable, inclusive, hopeful vision of the future, saying this is where we're going and it's going to be really, really great and you can be part of that. And so Ari and I started a discussion that took us about a year, going back and forth, sometimes yelling at each other, but always coming back to the table. And I would say, well, maybe we don't need that original vision. Maybe we should open in every Big Ten college town. Let's talk about what we should do. And after about a year, we came out with what would be our first long-term vision, which we came up with in 1994. And we said that we would open 12 to 15 businesses, all within the Ann Arbor area. We saw ourselves as very local, and we wanted to drive our roots deep into the community rather than going out wide. And we said that each business would be unique, and we wouldn't do anything unless a staff member came forward who was passionate about a product or a service, was going to operate according to our guiding principles, and was willing to invest at some level. Then we would finance that business with them. We would create this community of businesses where we would be customers and suppliers of each other. We wanted to have that synergy going on. We were going to now provide more opportunity for people to move up, to move around to different businesses, to become supervisors, to become managers, to be able to grow financially and professionally. And that's what we did. And so other than me and Ari, all other 19 partners are people that started as frontline employees. And they are now partners in the organization. It's not, it's not stock equity rights. It's not, it's actual partnership. They're our peers. All the businesses are separate legal entities, but we behave as one organization. In the public's eyes, we're certainly one brand. In the eyes of the IRS, because of some common ownership, we're a single employer, so benefits have to be the same, and you know, but marketing has to be the same, and pricing can't be too screwy. Quality standards, training standards, all of those things needed to be the same. So we opened up, and today we have all of these businesses. We have a brand new one that just opened up at the end of October called Miss Kim, which is a Korean restaurant. Our partner Ji-Hae Kim is someone who grew up in Korea and came to the States, went to the University of Michigan, worked with us for several years. But so you can see and over here on the controls is Steve Mangigian, who is my partner, and he is the owner and operator of our coffee company. But that's how we grew the organization. And if you go to the next one, so we did this. We believe that we've been able to successful because we came up with this vision and we wrote it out, and it talked about exactly what we were going to do. And we say that there's a few key elements to a vision. The first one is it has to be inspiring. Great work performance is characterized by folks that are working for something that's greater than themselves. People want to be part of something that's going to deliver some social good to their community. There's a world of difference between two workers. If you go to one and ask her what she's doing, and she says, I'm rough framing a wall. And you go to another one and you ask her what she's doing, and she says, I'm building a home for someone in my community. That worker is part of an organization that has a vision, that knows who they are and what they contribute to their community. So we say it needs to be inspiring, but it also needs to be strategically sound, because ultimately we are all governed by the rules of the marketplace. You could have the most awe-inspiring, utopian, romantic idea of this business that you want to create, but if it's not grounded in a marketplace reality, that's not a vision, that's a fantasy. And a fantasy is not going to drive a business towards long-term success. And then we say it needs to be documented, written down. Why would we do that? I'm going to ask a couple questions, and none of them are rhetorical. They actually require an answer. Why would you write it down? Anybody, shout it out. So you can, a reference, you could see it every day? So that you have some consistency to your efforts? What? A reference point? Accountability. Yes, all of those are great reasons why you do it. You know, we believe that, and on a metaphysical level, we believe that when you put that vision out in the universe is going to conspire in all these ways that you could never have foreseen that are going to help you along the way. But you have to put it out there. And then another reason is, go to the next one. So, in any effort that you have, there's a cost, okay? Over there on the left side, there's a cost to the innovation, to the change that you want to make, to the vision. And what we're looking for is a return on that innovation, okay? And if you go to the next one, so we're looking on the return. So the cost starts high, and the idea is over time it's going to come down, and it's going to start to deliver some real value to you, and you're going to get your return on that investment. You know, maybe some of you, one time you work in a company and you wanted to get a new piece of equipment, or you wanted to get a new software application or a new delivery truck, and you went to the person who controls the money and makes those decisions, and you said, I know this looks like it costs a lot of money, but it's going to pay for itself. We've all used that excuse, right? Because that's what we're looking for. But in order to get from when you're sitting in the room and you're having a strategic retreat, you brought your leadership together, you're coming up with a great idea, you're slapping high fives, you go out of the room and the real work starts. And before you can get to the other end, where if you look at all the metrics, every way you're going to measure yourself, you can say, by God, we've been successful, and you're popping the champagne, you have to go through this zone in the middle. And I call that the zone of doubt and blame. It's when you go, it wasn't my idea, I knew it was stupid the minute it came out of your mouth. Well, wait a second, we got it written down here and you signed this too, okay? So you got to go back to that, because once you start to do the work that is going to allow you to turn that vision into a reality, it gets really hard. Okay, to me, I always imagine it's an elephant on roller skates trying to get along the beach. It's drudgery. And everybody in the organization starts to go, why are we doing this? It was so much better before. Did anybody ever go out and put in a new enterprise software program that was going to run everything in your business? And it was going to be so great, and then it's just a nightmare for a long time. And everybody's going, why are we doing this? So the way you get through that, and you can't get from idea to success without going through this zone. It could be just weeks, it could be months, it could be years, but you're going to go through that. And to get through it, that's where the vision comes in. Your job as leaders in your organization, when everybody is getting confused and complaining, is to point to that vision and say, we sat in that room and we talked about this beautiful future and we're going to stay with it. And the vision is like a horn, and you never play an uncertain tune on it. And it's like Joshua at the walls of Jericho. You just keep blowing on that horn until that zone of doubt and blame comes crashing down and you get to the other side. And what that takes is real leadership. And I define leadership is having character. And character is the ability to persevere long after the romance of making that decision dissolves. And it usually dissolves the minute you step out of the room where you came up with those ideas. And that's really what pushes. And the vision is not only important because it describes what you're going to do, but it also talks about what you're, by definition, what you're not going to do. Often we become distracted with opportunities. We're doing real well, people are noticing us, people are coming to us with opportunities. And you can take that opportunity and you can press it through the sieve, the filter of the vision, and you can say, is this opportunity going to keep us in a straight line going toward that future that we've written down and we've agreed that this is what success is like? And if the answer to that is yes, then you would devote organizational resources towards vetting out that opportunity. But if the vision, if the answer is no, you have to have the discipline to say, thank you very much, we're really flattered, but this is not the direction we're going to go in. Because it's a major distraction to organizations. Opportunities, they're sexy. They can have a lot of energy and adrenaline attached to them. They can have a lot of what looks like money attached to them. And then you start to creep away from what your real vision is. This happens very often in the nonprofit sector. Has anybody ever worked in a nonprofit? Because opportunities come up where, there's grants out there and they think, well, we could do that too. And so you pursue that. So you want to have the discipline to stay with that idea, okay? And really keep everybody focused on that vision, which is what you've all agreed on is your definition of a success. So we came up with that vision that was going to take us to 2009. It was our first 15-year vision. And then we widely communicate that to everybody. This is who we are. This is our roadmap to success. So everybody that comes to work with us, when we do that orientation class, we have a packet that has our new vision, which now takes us to the year 2020. We say, this is who we are. This is where we're going. A lot of times, you get debate and conflict and arguing within an organization among the leadership, and they think they're arguing about strategy. But oftentimes they created a strategy in the vacuum of not having a vision. The vision is not how you're going to get somewhere. The vision is where you're going and why you want to do it. It's the what and the why. The strategy is how you're going to get there, and that comes later. But when you find in an organization people are screaming at each other and arguing about strategic directions, it's because they haven't agreed on where they're going. When everybody's in agreement and it's known where you're going and what the definition of success is, then those arguments, those debates are very healthy because everybody agrees this is where we're going. So with our coffee company, which we're partners in, Steve and I, if my vision is that down the road in 10 years we're a $5 million business, and his vision is that we're a $50 million business, it's not that one's right or one's wrong, but they're very different visions, and they're going to inform what we're going to do tomorrow very, very differently. And so we could start arguing about opportunities. But we're not, but because we haven't agreed that we're either a $5 million business or a $50 million business. So having This vision that is inspiring, that's strategically sound, that's documented, and is widely communicated is essential for long-term success in an organization.
Guiding principles.
Yeah.
Here we go.
So the vision is one of the tools that we use that drives us. Another tool that we use is guiding principles. The guiding principles are very important in two specific areas in an organization. And if you don't have them written down, I would encourage all of you to get with your staff and get with your leadership and write down what you believe your guiding principles are. It's a very, very powerful tool that helps the organization be successful over a long term. They're important in two specific areas. In one, they're going to define the levels of excellence that we're striving for. So if we say great food, everybody is very, very clear on what it means. To the cheese manager, it could mean that it's the best product I could possibly get. I've aged it, and I'm not bringing it out to sell it until it's perfect. And to the purchaser, it could mean, well, this is really close. It's almost as good, and it's $5 less a pound. You're going to have problems there. So we have principles that define what great food is in the organization. So that's one of the areas where the guiding principles are important. They're going to define the levels of excellence that we strive for. If we talk about great service, does that mean when the phone rings, we're going to pick it up before 3 rings? Or does it mean it's okay to let it go to voicemail? I'm not saying one's right or one's wrong, but you want to define what great service is, because we believe that everybody comes to work wanting to do a good job. Nobody gets up in the morning and comes to work and says, I'm going to be a jackass today and piss everybody off. Okay, people don't say that, but it happens, right? So what does doing a good job look like? We want to be very, very clear. That's where our guiding principles are important. And then the other area in which they're important is they're going to describe the personality or the culture of the organization. How do we relate with each other, with our customers, with our suppliers, with the media, with the larger community? There's often, we say that the principles, when we talk about defining the levels of excellence, we're talking about our systems, our tools. You know, the systems are the tools that help us achieve the levels of excellence that we want. And then we talk about the culture is how things actually happen. On one, you have the systems that talk about this is how it should be, and the culture is this is what's really going on. Have any of you ever worked for an organization that purported to be one thing, but actually behaved quite differently? And what was that like? Stressful. Counterproductive. It goes anywhere from mildly annoying to absolutely toxic, okay? We don't want to be that organization. We want to be an organization that, you know, as they say, walks the talk. Because, you got on the next one. So, you know, we use our guiding principles. One, they're on our applications so that people know who we are when they're applying for a job. We're going to be very upfront about that. And then they're going to attract the right people to your organization. We use them to tell stories, and we want to model the behavior all the time. Every day we want to behave in a way that we want the whole organization to want, and then we teach them. And when we teach them to people and we have them written down, it's the same as if I'm standing in front of the entire organization and I'm saying, I promise you that this will be the reality within this company without exception. And if I keep that promise, then I have the greatest asset that any employer could have. I have the trust of the people that work for me. And if we have their trust, we can be extraordinary we can accomplish great things, and we can have a enormous joy doing that. If I don't keep that promise, I squander that capital, I lose their trust, and we're going to be like every other middling organization up and down the block. So it's very, very important to us. So vision and guiding principles are two of the tools that drive us towards long-term success. And then another one is open book management. Have you heard of open book management before? And when you hear that, what does that mean to you?
Basically sharing your vision with everybody.
Sharing your vision with everybody. Everyone's involved. And a lot of times when you ask people what open book means, you know, they say that you're very transparent and everybody knows the numbers. They have the opportunity. It's people running the numbers. People running the numbers. That's exactly what it is. It's not just sharing the numbers. So when we first opened, I told you that we didn't want to be a top-down organization, but we really didn't know how to do it. We were sharing the numbers with everybody, but they didn't know what they meant. And so we left out components of it. And we struggled with this until several years later, we discovered a book called The Great Game of Business that was written by Jack Stack and co-authored by Bo Burlingham, who at the time was the editor of Inc. magazine. And Jack described business as a game. And he said, in any game, you got to know and teach the rules, you got to keep score, and you got to share the winnings. And so that's, you know, we adopted that. The name of the book is The Great Game of Business. And he wrote a follow-up to that called A Stake in the Game. And his name is Jack Stack. And the co-author is Bo Burlingham. Excuse me. So when Ari and I discovered that book, the light bulb came on for us. And we said, now we have a roadmap to where we want to go. And so we wanted to implement this system. And because before that, we were in many ways, although we didn't think we were traditional. In most organizations, where is all the financial information? At the top, the CFO, the CEO, the accountant. But where is the information on what's really happening during the transactions with the customers? It's down here, okay? And the folks up here, they think the folks down here they're kind of lazy, maybe a little dumb. They don't really care. They can't really handle the truth. And the folks down here that have all the information, they think the folks up here are kind of dumb, kind of lazy, not very interested, can't handle the truth. So the idea was to get a system where that information is flowing back and forth and everybody's involved. And it operates by having the venue is to have financial huddles in each department, in each business weekly. And each department has essentially a profit and loss sheet. We call it the department operating report. It's the P&L for that department, and it's tied back to our annual plan. And so every week, they're going to put up the numbers that are important to that department. All of them are going to have sales and labor and cost of goods sold. But depending on which, you know, they're going to have also key numbers that department controls. Out of stocks, mistakes, late deliveries, all of those things. And each line on that P&L has someone's name on it. It has a staff member's name. They own that line. And they're going to report out on that. They go up to that whiteboard and they put the numbers down and they talk about what plan was, what actually happened, what the variance was. They're going to spend 20% of the time on that, on the history. And they're going to spend 80% of the time forecasting going forward. So we're off plan. What are we going to do to get back on plan? Because if it's early in the year, it's the second month of the year, and now we're falling short of what we said our annual plan is, we can't wait until the end of the year to try to make up that. You know, in a football game, if after the first half, if you're behind by 34 points, you can't say all of a sudden we better start playing. So you own that line, and you're going to lead a discussion. You're the cheerleader for that line. You know, what are we going to do? And that's where the folks that are transacting the business, that are packaging the goods, that are creating the products, they're going to come up with the ideas that are going to help you. This is where everybody starts to take responsibility for the success of the business. And so Ari and I got really, really excited about this. And we said, we're going to go open book. And at first it was a disaster, because up here having all the information was job security, was a sense of control. Also, you were afraid to show people the numbers. And the folks down here, a lot of them thought we were going to ask them to do a lot more work for the same amount of money. And I'm going to tell you a story. So it was this is the original kitchen. Until 6 years ago, this was our kitchen at the deli. And we encountered the paradox of democracy, right? Because see, at some point, if you were all command and control, then somebody says, from now on, we're going to be different. We're going to be democratic. Well, that wasn't a democratic decision. That was a command decision, but from now on we're going to be. So we encountered that, and we were getting a lot of resistance, and it was hard, and we lost people, and people were complaining a lot. But then one day, I was walking through that kitchen, and a dishwasher who goes to the high school next door walked over to the recycle bin, and he picked up a plastic gallon jar of Hellman's mayonnaise, and he brought it over to the prep cook, and he said, you didn't take your spatula and get the rest of that mayonnaise out of there. That's my profit sharing check in there. And I almost cried. So I had a 16-year-old kid that was now connecting all the dots, and then I knew we were on the right path. This is really, really going to work. And it works because Open Book is in line with our values, and it helps us live our values in an operational way. You know, guiding principles, guiding values have to be operational. It's not good enough for someone to read them and say, oh, those ring true with my heart. I share those values. Okay? I'm not asking you to share those values. I'm asking you to behave that way. And this was in line with it. It was operational. It distributes the work appropriately to everybody. And they start to have control over the things, their areas. They understand that if they're prepping food, they're responsible for the waste that's going on, and it's going to be measured every week. It always leads to better decisions. You get information that you can. When we first opened our first full-service sit-down restaurant called Zingerman's Roadhouse, and by that time we were already open book, and we opened and we were really busy, but our food cost was just going through the roof, and we're having the huddle and saying we got to get this food cost down. The dishwasher, once again, the dishwasher says, every time the plates come back, they're still full of a mound of French fries, and they barely eat the mashed potatoes. And that wasn't because they weren't good, they were great. And so we decided, well, we'll give a much smaller amount of French fries, and if people want more, we'll tell them they can just ask for more. And the mashed potatoes, we just cut the portion down. Okay? So this is because everybody's looking at the numbers, everybody's thinking about what their responsibility is to it. Okay? So you're making better decisions. It builds commitment. You're sharing the winnings with them. Like I said, we have an annual plan, and it talks about the net operating profit, the gross margins that we have to run to be successful. Anything above that, we call the gain, and that gain is shared. with the folks. Each business has a different gain sharing plan, but they all have one. Some are monthly, some are a couple times a year, and some are once a year, depending on how those businesses run. But you're building commitments, you're sharing the winnings with them. It teaches everybody to think like an owner. You're giving a great education to everybody, and they're taking ownership because they're fully vested in it now. And it helps develop the future leaders in the organizations. The line owners that are really keen and really know what's going on, we're identifying them. We're trying to get them to go into our leadership development program. We can see that this is something they're going to be good at and something they want to take on. And for us, it generates consistently better results. I will tell you that the largest driver of profitability over the last many years has all happened after we went open book. And I'll tell you one other story. One of our businesses is Zingerman's Bakehouse, and it's a wholesale business. We make traditional stone hearth oven breads and pastries and specialty cakes. Only about less than 20% of the sales are to the other Zingerman's businesses. The rest are to the outside world. And if you guys were in business in 2008, 2009, 2010, you all remember that it was very painful. You know, we thought the financial markets were going to implode. Well, they actually did for a while. And at the bakehouse, it wasn't like it was a slow trickle down. It was like somebody turned off the lights. And my partners, the managing partners there, Amy and Frank, at their huddle, brought everybody together and they said, folks, for the first time in our history, we are in danger of not hitting our numbers for the year. And we, for us, the annual plan is a promise that we make to everybody, and we want to keep that promise. And they said, for the first time in our history, we might have to lay some people off. What kind of ideas do you have about what we should do? Well, it just so happened that at that time, the chef that made the employee meals there was leaving. So in all of our businesses, you get meals, and if you come and work a shift, you get fed. And we had a chef that would make lunches and dinners for the staff, and that person was leaving. Well, everybody knew exactly how much that program cost. Employee meals was a line item up there, okay? And one of the managers said, you know what? No one has ever been happy with this program. We all complain. You can't make anybody happy. How about we don't replace that person, and we have plenty of bread and plenty of pastries, and you put some cold cuts in the refrigerator and some potato chips, and we'll go with that. That came from the staff. Can you imagine if Amy and Frank came out and said, we're hurting, we're cutting out the employee meal program? Morale would have gone down. What happened was morale went up because they took control of the situation. They took an entitlement program and said, we don't need it. And then Amy and Frank said, Amy said, Frank and I are going to cut our salaries 10% until we're profitable again. Can you guys do anything? The managers went, huddled, came back, and they said, we'll cut our salary 5%, but we want you to accrue it, and when we're back to profitability, before you do any distributions to shareholders, we want that money back. And one of the managers said, I can't do that. I just had a kid and bought a house. And the group said, that's okay, you don't have to, we'll do that. Now, again, think about Frank and Amy coming forward and saying, we're cutting your salaries 5%. Everybody would have immediately been polishing up their resumes. But instead, they were emboldened. They felt good. They had made a decision that was going to help the organization. We did get back to profitability. They get all their money back, and there was even gain sharing at the end of the year. But those are things that cannot happen without open book management. I cannot in any way overemphasize the significance of having an open book culture in your organizations. It improves everything. Anyway, so really that's what I wanted to go over with you, was the 3 tools that I'll get you that have driven success in our organization. Having a written vision that is achievable, that is inclusive, that is hopeful, sharing that with everybody. Having a written set of guiding principles that is a promise to everybody in the organization, saying this is going to be the reality here, and being open book. And that's going to end my talk, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have, but you got to really shout it.
My only question was, like, how would you implement open book in a say a corporation instead of a smaller company like what you guys are doing?
So, well, it's harder. But you start smaller. You do it in your department or your group or your leadership team, but if the overriding company is not going to share information with you, it's very hard to do. But so what you do is you take all the information that is available to you, and you make in your department, and you make sure everybody knows what that is. And what's going to happen is the morale's going to go up, the energy's going to go up, better results are going to happen, and people are going to go, shit, I want some of that. And now this department wants it in this department, and eventually somebody's going to think it's a good idea at the top. But if the folks at the top are only interested in what the quarterly distributions are to shareholders, it will never happen. Yes, sir. So the question was, talk a little bit about our orientation. So when you come to work for us, you get a passport, an actual little passport, and it lists all the basic orientation classes that you have to take in order to be an employee in good standing and have all of your benefits begin. And there's knife safety and giving great service. Finance 101, great bread, great cheese, great coffee, so that people really understand, and everybody takes it. It doesn't matter if you're the dishwasher or the bookkeeper or the delivery guy. There's a set of basic classes that every single person takes, no matter which business you're in. And there's a calendar, a published calendar, that lists all the classes and where they're going to be taught in the organization and who's teaching them. And then you go to that class, you take your passport, and when you take the class, the teacher signs and says, yes, you've taken it. And then when you're done filling out that passport, you turn it into your supervisor, and they turn it into the HR department, and now all your benefits begin. So we wanted to share the administrative burden with the staff. And of course, everybody gets paid for every class that they go to. It's called the law. I can't tell you how many times I talk to groups, and people are asking employees to go to different classes and things and not paying them. They think, oh, you guys are so generous that you pay people. We would pay them anyways, I'm telling you, but it is the law. So, and then anytime you change positions, there's a passport for that position. There's supervisor level and manager level and partner level. So training is ongoing. We try to get as many people. So there's a committee called the training engineers, and their job is to make sure that they're responsible for the integrity and the updating of our training programs. And then we want to get as many people in the organization certified to teach as we possibly can. We want to be because when you have to teach it, you always got to relearn it every single time. So, any other classes? Am I over and somebody else is going to speak now? Who's next? Chip? Oh, any more questions?
You've had a tremendous amount of success with all this, but have there ever been any real big bumps and hurdles that you've had in?
So the question is, We've had a lot of success, but have we ever had any big bumps or hurdles? No, we're perfect, and we've never had. We have them. We have every problem that every organization has. I think that we deal with them differently. Yeah, we've had partners that I've had to ask to go. You know, principles are not principles until they cost you something. Okay? See, if the world turned upside down and tomorrow one of our guiding principles would put us at a strategic disadvantage in the marketplace, and because of that we go out and change it, that's not a guiding principle, that's a best practice. And best practices change. New information, new technology, new legislation, they change all the time. We get smarter. But principles don't change. And so if I have a partner who's behaving outside of our guiding principles and I allow that to continue, then I'm out of integrity with the organization. And so I have to go to that partner and say, you are going to have to leave this company. We're going to force you out. Now, it's one thing to terminate an at-will employee, but you go to a partner and say, you're behaving like an asshole all the time and we can't allow this. They go, oh, you're right, I'm sorry, I'm going to pack up my desk and leave. No, we have a legal contract and a buy-sell agreement, and so it's expensive to ask someone to leave. But we've done it. We've done it. So yeah, we encounter problems all the time. We have businesses that struggle, but as a community of businesses, we have a lot of resource to buoy them up and keep them going. I would say that I've been at it for 35 years and I still love it. I look forward to going to work every day, and I think we have a really good culture. But it's just, we do have bumps and hurdles and issues, yes. But we have systems and we stay with those systems, and we have a vision and we stay true to that vision and we keep following it. So anyway, what are your questions?
It was very inspiring.
Oh, okay. Well, anyways, you're a very small but wonderful crowd, and I really appreciated this opportunity. I'll be here. We have a booth. We're showing our cold brew coffee. We have the only shelf-stable cold brew in the country. It's patent pending. Zingerman's cold brew. It's very good. Come and get a bottle. And then we also have a candy manufacturing, and we make some wonderful handmade candy bars and peanut brittle and chocolate covered peanut brittle. We have lots of samples over there for you. We're in the other hall. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.